At the North Carolina cabin, day 1. From my vantage point on this Saturday in March 1 year ago, sitting in a comfortable room approximately 3,100 feet above sea level in the mountains of Ashe County, North Carolina, I can see my wife Pat, my son Marc, his wife Jill, and my 4 grandchildren, Rebecca, Julia, Andrew, and Savannah. The atmosphere of the place has us in a laid-back mood, although nothing slows Savannah down. The weather radio is calling for wind and rain, which will contribute to the laid-back attitude that always accompanies a trip to my sister's cabin. Earlier, the weather people were talking snow, but now it is 100% rain. Nana and I packed our goose down for this trip, so tonight the window to our bedroom will be open, awaiting that glorious sound of mountain rain. The small creek, running approximately 50 yards from that open window, ain't bad either. I always tell my sister Betty this cabin is a family treasure, and it is one of my favorite places in the world to visit. This place has done more to bring our families a closeness that could not be obtained anyplace else. It has also contributed to some happy weddings. All in all, a good time is always had by all who are lucky enough to be welcomed into this special place. Day 2 at the cabin. It's 38 degrees and a slow, cold, steady rain. The first thing I did after arriving up here was slide the 2 rocking chairs out on the front porch. I usually rock most of the daylight hours, but for whatever the reason, I am glued to one of the living room chairs. This blog is probably the reason I am skipping the thing I mostly did on past trips to the cabin, and that is rock and rock and rock. I could go back to pencil and paper, but that would take me back to the reason I never maintained a journal. I cannot spell squat, and I have it spelled S-Q-U-I-A-T. The dampness, and I think that is correct, the dampness on the porch in the rocking chair could be injurious to my laptop and spell checker. This is my first mountain trip after starting this blog. Just talked to my sister, and they have been without power for several days in High Point, North Carolina, because of an ice storm. Looks like this will be our first cabin visit without her being with us. She was planning to come up today, but they have a threat of more ice in that part of North Carolina, so she decided to stay put. And remember, I wrote this a year ago today, or in March. A coating of ice, this is day 3, a coating of ice with snow and a color of gray and white in the woods, while my grandchildren look for me to display St. Patrick's Day green. All in all, another enjoyable day at the cabin. We have a wind-up weather radio with solar panels atop the handle, so we will be connected even if the power goes down. I am not that worried about a power failure because the power company serving the mountain communities prepared for those type of events many years ago. When I am in this location, I think about an old dilapidated house a mile up into the woods from our location. While here, we have made 2 trips to a modern grocery store to get anything from a video game to pixie tangerines. We could not survive if suddenly transported to the last century and that house that I was telling you about up in the woods. If you go up the Blue Ridge Parkway a few miles to Dalton Park, you will find an old log cabin where a man and his wife raised a ton of children in a log cabin back in the 1800s. The cabin I sit in as I do this blog is only a cabin in name only. Any place else you would call this place a nice house. So goes the life of modern-day roughing it. We can imagine the backwoods while we enjoy our brief trips to the mountains with all the conveniences of home. I think the closest thing we could do to mimic the true mountain pioneer is hike the Appalachian Trail. At this stage of my game, that is only possible in my mind.